The liquid culture.
Hey friends, welcome to another episode of The Liquid Culture. Appreciate you guys being here today. Today's episode is all about the Grimm brewery, Grimm Artisan Ales based in Brooklyn, New York. Doing 3 of their beers today, going to keep it really short and simple, not going to go too deep into the brewery or anything like that. Just going to taste each of the beers in an effort to try and make a little bit more approachable content for you guys. Something a little bit shorter, quicker, more to the point. Got the mic in the frame here today. Ordered a lavalier mic that did not work, so we are trying some things to try and get the echo down in here, but we'll see how that goes. So again, guys, Grimm Artisan Ales, getting right into it. Beer number 1, drinking these beers today here. Probably gonna be about 50 degrees. Want to be able to taste them. The first one we're doing is Kinetic Cloud, dry hopped sour ale. So Grimm, as I mentioned, is based in Brooklyn. As you would imagine, being a Brooklyn-based company, we've got some good artistic stuff going on with these guys. The founders actually studied art, sculpture and music in Chicago, where they kind of started homebrewing and all that kind of good stuff. So they're very artistically inclined. Lauren and Joe Grimm, namesake brewery, Grimm Artisan Ales. These guys make a really wide range of beers, guys. Really kind of everything from IPAs to stouts to sour beers. They like to experiment with a lot of stuff. As you can tell, dry hop sour beer. Not incredibly common, a dry hop sour beer, but you do see them if you start really getting more into craft beers, and especially stuff that you find on a limited release such as these. The dry hopping process is something that's meant to be drank kind of fresh, because with dry hopping, all you're doing is adding hop flavor and aroma. You're not really getting hop bitterness, so what happens is over time, that aroma and flavor start to wear off, kind of like the spices in your spice cabinet. They start to lose flavor over time. Hops are very similar in that way, so if you make a dry hop beer, you want to have, or if you buy a dry hopped beer, you want to consume it as fresh as possible. Unfortunately, I'm not following that rule. I actually brought these beers back. Well, 2 of these beers I brought back from New York when I was there like 2 years ago, and one was brought back for me by a friend who was living in New York at the time, Ryan. Shout out. Thanks, girl. So really good hop aroma on the nose. It doesn't smell super tart for it being a dry hopped sour ale. It doesn't smell like it's going to be a super tart beer. The hop aroma, I feel like, is really well integrated. It's not like really in your face with like resin or like citrus or anything crazy like that. Just a really well balanced hop aroma and character. Super subtle, easy drinker. There's a little like salinity to it. It's got some saltiness, it's got some juiciness from the hops, a little bit of sour characteristic, but not like pucker your face off sour. It's just a really well balanced, well integrated hop sour, and a little bit of saltiness. I don't know if they put a little bit of salt in this, like almost like you would do with a goza, but there's a little bit of saltiness to it. Really easy drinker. I wonder what the 5.3. So definitely in that sessionable category. Best served 45 to 50 degrees in a tulip or wine glass. Look at that. Love when the brewery puts that on the label, gives you what they kind of hope that you're drinking the beers in. For me, guys, Kinetic Cloud, Grimm, probably, the kind of unfortunate thing about this is that with Grimm, they're very limited release, seasonal kind of beers, so you're probably not, especially if you don't live in New York, going to be able to go out and buy this. Reason for this video was just to introduce you guys to Grimm, if you're ever up in the East Coast, to really kind of give them a look, because you can find their beers up at the East Coast, especially now that they've gone from being that nomadic brewer. I mentioned that in my last beer video. They used to be a nomadic brewer to now they have their own facility and tap room there in Brooklyn. So you can for sure find Grimm when you make trips up to New York City. That's really, again, just straight, balanced, delicious, easy drinking beer right there, guys. So up next, I'm going to give a little rinse here because this is going to be a different beer for sure, and I don't want to have any sort of crossover in the glass here. Up next, guys, we've got the Cherry Raspberry Pop. So this is described as a dessert Berliner Weiss style ale brewed with tart cherries, raspberries, vanilla, and milk sugar. Check that label out, guys. Pretty awesome. So again, they call this a dessert Berliner. I'm wondering if it's going to be ultra sweet or just a little sweet or maybe even not sweet at all, but just with some like kind of flavors that you would pair really nicely with like some kind of a dessert. Again, nose on it, not crazy in your face. It's a beautiful color though. I mean, it looks like if you just juiced a bunch of fresh strawberries and you got this like beautiful kind of just like hazy, milky juice off of them. It almost smells like a raspberry chocolate bar. Like, you know, those chocolate bars you get that have like the like, you know, raspberry fruit jelly kind of center. That's what it kind of smells like. It tastes like that too. That's crazy that I'm getting this like chocolate component on this beer because maybe it's that vanilla that's in there is kind of giving like a candy chocolate bar kind of vibe. I tell you what, I'm for sure going to be drinking some more of this tonight with a nice dark chocolate bar. I think that this is an incredible pairing to go with some chocolate. There's no chocolate in this beer, and really chocolate is something you expect to get on something like the next beer that we're going to drink. But for whatever reason, I'm getting this really like chocolate, like raspberry, strawberry, cherry flavored like chocolate bar on this beer. It's not super tart, which again is something I love about Grimm's beers. So I first heard of Grimm really because of their labels. I saw them on Instagram and I started following them. And it wasn't until I took a trip up to New York and visited the brew pub Torst, which is a bar, like a brewery bar, not a brewery, I'm sorry, a brew pub that was opened by a couple of dudes from Denmark, one of them being the owner of Evil Twin Brewing, and the beer selection that those guys have there is stunning. If you're ever in Brooklyn, you gotta hit up Torst. That is like the best beer bar in all of New York, and in my opinion, probably one of the top beer bars in the country, and the food's incredible too. And that was my first experience actually getting to taste Grimm beers, and really fell in love with them. It's always great when you have a beer that you follow because the labels are really badass, but then also have the beers be incredible as well. So this is the style of beer that I was drinking whenever I was there, that kind of tart, but not overly sour, rip your face off like sour beer. Their beers are much like, say, somebody like Jester King. Their beers are really incredibly well balanced. All the little flavors are integrated nicely with each other, and you have a really well balanced mouthfeel. Really excited to have some dark chocolate with this. 4.8, again, lower alcohol content, 40 to 45 degrees in a tulip or a wine glass. I mean, that's beautiful, guys, whenever you have a brewery that puts that kind of stuff on the label. That's why you know that they take their products really seriously. If you find a brewery that puts that kind of information on the label, you know that you're probably at least getting a product that somebody really put a lot of heart into brewing, because if they're going to go through the effort to put on the label the temperature you should be drinking it at and the wine glass or the glassware you should be drinking it at, you know that they care about how you're experiencing their product, and they only will want you to do that if, of course, they put a lot of heart and soul into it. So guys, Double Negative, Imperial Stout. I told you, these guys make all styles of beer, from IPAs to sour beers to barrel-aged stuff to Imperial Stouts, which, as you can see, the color of is that just crazy jet black color. Not the kind of beer I'm used to drinking in the middle of Texas summer. This is certainly a beer that I will probably have to drink later tonight when I've got the AC cranked way down and I'm sitting in bed watching a movie or something. But what I wanted to do was show you guys the range that Grimm can show. The range of beers that Grimm has available. And I actually have another bottle of this beer that I plan to hold on to until this winter when it's really nice and crisp outside. Have a little fire, drink a little winter warmer, which I'm assuming this beer is going to be. Oh God. What's the ABV on this? So we're doubling the ABV. We were at like 5.4 here, 4.8 here. We're at 10% here, guys. Now, this beer actually has won a couple of medals at Great American Beer Fest, including what appears to be a gold medal. Best served 55 to 60 in a snifter or wine glass. So I wanted to save this one for last, not only because if you're drinking beers of this, in this kind of range, you want to save the big guy for last. It's going to wreck my palate whenever I go to drink this guy. But also because I wanted this one to warm up a little bit more than the other one. So I think we're at a good temperature now. It's got like toffee, dark chocolate, figs, almost like a roasted pumpkin seeds, vanilla, like Mexican, like vanilla extract. I mean, I'm so like against it because I have such a hard time drinking beers like this. Really, even in the winter, it's got to be like cold as shit for me to want to drink beers like this. Even in, and still not want to drink a whole lot of them. But I see why they get so much credit. These big imperial stouts, they're just so complex on the nose and on the palate. You get so many things with them, so much more so than beers like this. But I mean, you've really got to be in the mood for something like this. Super creamy. You can really taste the roasted malts that they used in the brewing process to give it this real dark toastiness. It's deep. It's really, really dark. I mean, everything on my palate right now is like if you like scraped a bunch of like ash off of like a smoldering log. I mean, not in a bad way. I mean, it's an incredibly well-made beer. It's very, very tasty, but everything in my mouth right now is like dark. It's dark fruit. It's dark chocolate. It's bitterness. It's ashiness. It's smokiness. It's got that, God, it smells like fall though. It's got that roasted pumpkin, like pumpkin seed kind of thing going on with it. Like if you took some pumpkin seeds and like toasted them in a skillet until they got real kind of hot and their oil started coming out. It's really got that going on the nose there, in addition to all those dark chocolates and vanilla and things of that nature and those dried fruits. Really big, really powerful, really shows the range of brewing that can be done at Grimm Artisan Ales. I would say, again, if you guys are taking a trip or planning a trip up to New York, maybe for the holiday season, I wouldn't recommend going right there right now. I've spent a lot of time in New York in the summer, and it's not a fun place to be. But if you're planning a trip to New York this fall, this winter, coming up sometime soon, I highly recommend taking a trip to the Grimm Tasting Room in Brooklyn, or go to Torst, also in Brooklyn, or just search out Grimm beers at any kind of craft beer bottle shop that you can find in the city, in any of the 5 boroughs. I'm sure you can find it somewhere, but I would highly recommend checking out Grimm Artisan Ales. Thanks for being here with me, guys. Real short and sweet today. Beer review, Mitchell Chirac, The Liquid Culture. We'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.